good to see you here. Thank you for coming out. I'm going to try to move, and hopefully tonight we'll be able to kind of bring this session. We're talking about marks of a healthy church. And we've talked this for the last couple of weeks, and and it's hard because you only have an hour to kind of do everything, so we kind of try to, but I feel like it's really important. And you may be asking, well, why are you bringing this up? The reason I bring this to our attention is because I want us to really do what I know we should be doing. And it's like I told the group Sunday when I was meeting with them, I don't tell you these things because you're not doing them. I tell you these things to remind you to keep doing them. It's a reminder. We need to be reminded. I'm reminded of back in, if you read the book of Nehemiah, you'll notice that there's a pattern that Nehemiah dealt with the people of God as they were rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem. And what happens about every 30 days or so, people start forgetting why you're doing what you're doing. And it's really true. It really does happen. So about every 30 days, you have to be reminded. You have to go back and revisit and remember why we do what we do. Now, we would think that we don't do that. We would think that, no. But it's true. We get distracted. We float, if you will. We drift, away from the mission. We drift away from the priorities and the things. Things get in the way. Stuff happens. Life happens. All kinds of things go on that cause us to move away from the things that we should be doing and keeping focused on what we know God is asking of us. So it's important for us to be reminded, to come along and say, hey, look, let's make sure that we are doing what we're supposed to keep, as I like to say, keep the main thing the main thing. Because too often we major in minors. And when you major in minors, you forget what really you're doing. And it happens everywhere. Man, it even happens on our jobs. It happens in our homes. It can happen in our marriages. It can happen in any situation that involves human interaction. It really does. It can even happen when you're interacting with your animals. I know, what? It really does. You forget, How many of you got that cute little puppy thought, oh, this is the greatest thing in the world? And that thing turns 2 years old. It's like, why did I get this dog? Right? You forget. It was a cute little puppy once. We live our lives like that. Things get busy. Time gets away from us. Just recently I was reminded of a situation. And in my mind, it was as if it had just happened like a year ago. And when I started thinking about it, I started counting back the years. That wasn't a year ago. It was like 5 years ago. But in my mind, it was like, no, it just, and you know how you can really tell when it really happens? Just go through your pictures on your phone and look. And you go back like 5 years ago, and you think, oh, no, that couldn't have been then. But it was. And it's just crazy how things move and happen. And if we're not careful, we can become, we can drift away from the true mission that God has us on, the true purpose for which we've been called. Why are we here? What is the reason God has brought us here? And I look at, for myself, after in fact, it will be coming up next month, 36 years of ministry here at this church. I have to remind myself again and again, because in my mind, I remember as if it were yesterday the conversation I had with someone sitting down with me, asking me this very pointed question: what's the vision of your church? And me being stumped and not knowing what it was, and trying to discover what it is that God really has me here for, and why have I been appointed as the pastor, and why are we really here, and what was the purpose of us as a church? And we could boil it all down to, well, we're like every other church around, but we're not like every other church, and every other church is not like every other church. We all have one main purpose, to serve Christ. I mean, we know that we're here, to be a part of the kingdom of God. But how do we do that? How do we do that on a daily basis? How do we do that on a monthly, yearly basis? What kind of things, how do we avoid things becoming status quo in our life? It's interesting to me because when I go visit people, and I visit homes, and when I'm around people, there's some people I go to see, and when I step into their home, it's like stepping into 1940. Seriously, the carpet on the floor is the same carpet it was the day they built the home. It's never changed. And for some people that's okay, because you know how it is, and this is a reality for all of us, and we all know this to be true. Let's say that you have a hole in the wall of your house, right? And at first you notice it, but the next day it's less noticeable. A month later, it's even less noticeable. A year later, you don't even know it's there at all. You walk right by the same thing over and over and over again, but eventually it's not even there. You don't even know. It's like you can see the colors of the paint of the wall, and you think, okay, that's a nice color. But 10 years later, you're looking at your wall and saying, it's a nice color. And it's been 10 years. Now, some people, there's some people that they want to change things all the time, right? And they can drive you crazy. But there's other things, and it really is true. The thing that we notice in the beginning, if we don't deal with it then, it isn't long before we won't deal with it at all. We'll just push it off, and you just may do. I got tickled because that's one of the things that when I finally broke down and decided that I'm going to go ahead and remodel the kitchen in our house. It was only after about 3 weeks of listening to my wife and I both complain about the things that we didn't like about the kitchen we were in. And I thought, that's it, I'm done. I'm tired of complaining about it. I'm going to do something about it. And then the morning I got up to do it, it's like, what are you doing? So I told you I was going to redo the kitchen. Well, now? Yeah, now. Because if I don't start now, right, what happens? You won't get it done. If you don't put a step forward, nothing. So everything begins with one step. It's got to be one step. Without that one step, you're never going to do it. Without looking at things and recognizing things, examining things, and going back over things and reassessing and doing and nobody really likes to do that. Let's be honest. We really don't like to do that because the majority of us don't like to make changes. And I know for myself, when I was a younger pastor, change was easy for me. Man, I could go with it no matter what. As I've gotten older, it's become less and less simple. It feels more complicated as I've gotten older. And I don't think that it really is. I think it's just that I've gotten older. and it's the same for all of us. It's hard to when you've done something the same way for so long, to try to retrain yourself to do something different is not easy. Back a few months ago, I made up my mind that I wasn't going to eat sugar no more. You talk about the hardest thing you've ever done in your life, especially after I came off of Christmas and come off the fast. I never craved things more than when I made up my mind that I wasn't going to do it. And it's like it's instantaneous. Like I'm not even thinking about it, and then I'm thinking about it. It's like I don't know how that happens. But that's the way it is. You don't even realize how aware you are of something until you see it for the first time. And then after that, you see it 100 times. And we call that a conscious awareness, where you become consciously aware of things around you. So, you've probably done it. You went out to a new car dealer, right? And they said, "Oh, this is the new color car." And you said, "Well, that's really beautiful. That's so cool." Like I know they came out with that the one color now. I see a lot of them now, but it was that kind of that clay gray, right? It's kind of and most people, I personally, it doesn't really appeal to me. But when I first saw it, I thought, man, why would somebody want that color car? And then the next thing I know, I like 5 of them drive by me. It's like, they're all the same color. How did that happen? Well, I wasn't paying attention to it until I saw it. And then once I saw it, now I become consciously aware of it. It's all around me. So you buy that car, it's, you know, you think you're the only one that's got it until you go home and your neighborhood's filled with like 4 of them. It's like, I thought I was the only one that had that color car. No, you never knew it, but everybody else around you, it was until you became aware of it. And that's kind of how we are. Until we're aware of something, we really don't pay attention to it. But when it's brought up to us, when we also now we're thinking about it, you know, now we want to look at it. Now we want to see. Driving down the road in your car and you hear that click, 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 right? And at first you think, what is that? And then you just keep driving and turn the radio on. Oh, it's gone now, right? We do things like that because we realize I don't want to know what that clicking noise is right now. I don't have time to deal with that. Well, the clicking noise could turn into something a lot worse later if we don't deal with it. You know, those are signs, those are things, and we need to look at them. We just need to. As hard as it is for us to examine, hard as it is for us sometimes to peel back, you know, the layers and to look, to lift the hood and get under. I mean, I can lift up the hood of my truck. I can look in there. It's all French to me. I don't know nothing about it anymore. I have no clue. I don't know what none of that stuff is. I used to when it was the old V8s. And, you know, there was just a distributor cap, and right, it was just a simple, that was easy. It isn't that easy no more. So I admire people that know how to do this. So when I call Doug, I say, hey, Doug, I got this noise in my truck. What's it sound like? Well, you might want to bring that over to me. Let me take a look at that. Then it's like, oh, no, I know what that means. It's going to cost me something now, right? It's crazy how that happens to us. But the same thing is in church too. We can push stuff away and hide it and act like it doesn't exist when it really does. And we can say it doesn't, but saying it doesn't mean it doesn't. If it's in front of us, it's there. We got to deal with it. And that's hard for us. And sometimes it's hard even for the congregation as a whole to understand, why do we do some of the things that we do? Why are we approaching things the way we are? Why is and if we don't spend time talking about the whys, not just what it is or what we're going to do, but why do we need to do these things? Why is it important? You know, and ask the questions and give opportunities for those things to happen, and not to be afraid of you know, being stirred up inside of us, to look at things honestly and to really pay attention to. And even as hard as it is for me sometimes, I remember some years ago, I had this brainy idea. I thought, I'm going to send out a survey to people and ask them to critique my preaching.
Only one time.
Oh, I did it more than once. I was a glutton for punishment, believe it or not. And I don't put your name on it. I don't want you to put your name on it, so don't do that. Just be honest. I almost resigned from what some of them told me, because some of them were. But at the same time, I needed to hear it. I needed to know. You know, I don't want to be. I never want to be at that place to where I feel like that I know better than everybody else. And I don't want to subject others to something that I myself am not willing to be subjected to. I don't want to ask of someone else something that I won't ask of myself. So I have to put myself in those places as well. And over the years I've grown and I've learned and I've understood that, you know, that there's certain people that no matter, you know, I could give them the survey, you know, this year, and then the same survey next year and the same survey, and every year it would be the same thing. Nothing would change. No matter how much I would do, it wouldn't matter, because some people, it doesn't matter to them. It's not that important to them. Other people, it is. And I want to hear that, and I want to know that. And the same thing with us as a church. I want us to really honestly look at our church and ask ourselves, are we healthy? Are we doing the right things? Can we improve? What can we do better? What things do we need to do? And you know, I'm a learner. I want to learn. I want to grow. I want to be able to help, and I want you to be helped. You know, one of the reasons that we came to the place that we finally did on discipleship, and where we became more intentional. In fact, now we're very intentional. We want you in discipleship. We want you to grow. We want you to. Why? Because we've watched too many of God's people fall by the wayside simply because, and much of it could have been avoided had they just learned some simple things about their walk with Christ. It could have been avoided. But because, you know, the day was, well, you birth them, and you just send them out there and they can just figure it out. And I've even had people come to me and say, well, nobody told me how to do it. I just had to figure it out. Okay, you figured it out. But some people, it's hard for them to figure it out. And today's a different world. Today's a different day. Things are different now. And I like it or not, it's different. But all we can do is avail them to it. It's available. We can't twist your arm and make you do it. If you don't want to do it, then I can't do anything about that part of it. But I don't want to ever come to the place that we say, well, the reason why I didn't do it is because you didn't have it available to me. I would rather not be that church. I'd rather not be that kind of church. I'd rather be the kind of church that says, we have ministries available that you can be a part of that can help you with those things that you're going through. If you're willing to avail yourself to it, if you're willing to put in the work, the effort. And I think that that's important. All of us need to put in the work to be the believer God wants us to be, to walk with Christ the way Christ has called us to walk. We're all on the same journey. Amen? We're all on the same journey. Now, we may be walking at different paces on the journey, but we are all on the journey. And that's why the Bible, I think, when we read, especially as we read the New Testament, it says, you know, provoke one another to love and good works. You know, help one another along. You know, don't just leave them, you know, in the ditch. You know, go over there and pick them out of the ditch, clean them up. Well, that might take some time. Take the time. It's okay. You need to because that's who we are. That's what we're about. So when we look at this as a church, you know, and so what we came up, you know, we're a place of new beginnings. I'm not going to stay here, but I just, you know, this is what we are. We're a place of new beginnings. I don't know where you've been. Don't know what your background is. Don't know how deep in sin you were. Don't know how shallow in sin you were. I don't care how many times you've messed up. I don't care if you've blown it yesterday and you come to church. It's Saturday and you blew it on Saturday and you come to church on Sunday. It's a new beginning for you. And we need to have that attitude toward the hearts of people. You need to know that they're loved and accepted for wherever they are. Not where we want them to be, but where they are. Because if we can meet them where they are, you know, I always think about Jesus getting down in the dirt with the adulterous woman. You know, she's down there, and where is he? He's right down there with her. And to me, that's how you get down to where they are, and